Okay, we're good.
Replay.
All right. So it's 2:38 on Tuesday, the 17th of June.
2:34.
That's good enough, 2:34, you're right. I'm Scott Hope, Chairman of the Nature Preserve Technical Advisory Board, and we'll call this meeting to order. Our first item is always the citizen comments, and as usual, we don't have citizens here to comment. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the big item of the day, Nature Preserve Manager Report.
Okay.
Great, how are you?
All right, so it's been a little while since we met. Okay. So yeah, so we've continued with a lot of our land management projects. We had a grant with CBDP. It was $59,000, and so we were able to with I think about $20,000 of additional city funds, mechanically remove 75 acres with pepper tree and white lead tree, and then treat with the herbicide 103 acres. So it's a pretty big project this year. So the 75 acres was the whole land area. It wasn't, all pepper tree, but quite a bit of it within some of those areas. So we have one more retreatment on the 50 acres near the pavilion, kind of those uplands. There's, just a few pepper trees here and there, so he's got one more retreatment of that in July.
Who did it?
That we had several, but that was BioTree Care that Aaron recommended, Oscar, and then Triton did different part of it. What were you questioning?
I was just gonna ask you if all this treatment is now going all the way down to Piper Channel? You doing all that area, or is it just from pavilion back?
We did the over there by south of Palladium. The trail, the South Trail, the 67 acres, and then oh wait, no, I'm confusing two projects. Oh yeah, I think that was all. And then part of over there by the pavilion. So, and
But
then.
now that you can get through, what does that area along the ship channel look
Oh,
like?
out there,
Out there.
no, we did not treat all of that, past the breach. Because it's too hard to walk out there with the herbicide. We have an idea maybe for next year. Part of the budget thing is potentially using drones to spray over there. So, but yeah, we haven't gotten out there because it's just too hard. We can't drive a vehicle, or you have to walk in the wetlands to get over there still. So it's just the uplands on the community park trail, basically.
Yeah.
So. And we also were able to treat some other city properties, some small sections. So yeah, so staff are continuously monitoring. Hopefully, we can keep up with that, so that way we won't have to, get to a big project again in those areas. We can just keep an eye on it, go out there occasionally, and Justin's been leading most of that. After we do a big project, the monitoring and retreatment stuff. We planted 15, I think it might have been a few more because we transplanted a few trees, native trees on the Paradise Pond Community Park Trail. We did that right before the Whooping Crane Festival. The plants, it was a part of the Restore project. She'll talk about the construction more in a little bit, but so we did that. It was like 30 degrees out. And we had like 2 volunteers, but we got it done. It's really, really cold.
That sounds pretty good right now.
Yeah, I know. We'll take it. 30-degree wind chill. And so we're continuing some hog management. I just talked with the guy that's been helping us. We're probably gonna move the trap somewhere else because he was putting corn out, no hogs were coming to it. So we might look at potentially out on Salt Island because I've had several people reporting seeing hogs out there. But he also said they'll come quite a distance, so maybe might not be worth bringing it all the way out there, but or maybe move it back to the 67 acres because we had a trap over there. It's a little easier logistically to get to. So we're kind of working on that right now. One thing that's not on here is we got a permit to hold another prescribed fire on that kind of larger upland track just east of the pavilion. It hasn't been burned since 2020. So it's about 50 acres around the community park trail. So we have till the end of the year, so once kind of our schedules, we have openings, we'll start looking at weather when the wind kind of starts coming down. Probably end up being in the summer. The fire department also is gonna help, so we'll do it on a weekend. Maybe the fall. I don't know.
For the prescribed fire, have you thought of trying to protect the hilltops or trees that might be desirable?
Yeah, we'll
But
have
you
to,
know, long ago, it was all mesquite, Hercules, club, and those things get burned up.
yeah. Well, Clays Hill will have to protect the whole thing because of the shade structures as well now and planted, and we wanna plant more up there. Yeah, so we can mow around those areas and wet them down, you know, whatever, same they do with all the gazebos and all that, so we'll do the mowing either by staff or contractor ahead of time, and then the fire department ahead of the fire goes and wets it really good, and then they even stayed at the pavilion last time we burned over there and just kept spraying it the whole time. So certain areas, we have a little water truck now too. It's a little wagon, like a trailer. So we can use that to get into more difficult spots too, I guess.
There's the flip side of that is if you don't burn it, then you got all the stuff up there you're trying to get rid of, as well as and it's still there that you have to deal
Well,
with somehow. It'd just be nice to figure out some way to have, you know, more mesquites and
Yeah, up
stuff
here.
on top of those hills like they used to be, but
yeah, the guinea grass is bad. Like up on Clays Hill, for example, again, but the fire isn't gonna help that unless it's like repeatedly, like real intense, so we'll have to. We're trying to figure out some ideas for that for next fiscal year to kind of tackle some of the guinea grass. So. But yeah, we're calling for volunteers. A good experience. If anyone's available.
Do you have an age limit for volunteers for that? A younger age limit? Lower? Okay,
Volunteers are 16 or 18
You're talking about just for the prep work?
or the day of. Find out you think your son would be.
maybe.
We have some, well, I can't remember what the city now has for even just volunteers in general.
Mhm.
But there are some jobs that are not as much fun really, but you know, we do need people to man barricades and
Right.
talk to visitors, that kind of thing too, but maybe more of the lighting of the fire sounds would be more interesting. So I will find out. I wonder what age the fire department takes volunteers and.
Do y'all contract out the the burn?
Nope.
Okay,
Yeah.
just grab a torch and go, huh?
Well, yeah.
Bo usually offers advice. Bo just doesn't want to be in any photos.
Yeah.
Gotcha,
Like,
okay.
Well, he won't come on site for the fire anymore. He'll come ahead of time and talk to us, but there are other people from the Coastal Bend Prescribed Burn Association that will come out that
Okay.
have a lot of experience. So it's
Right.
not just like me and Justin, but then they bring equipment too. And then last time we had Hans Soha, the guy that is helping us with the hogs, he is a branch manager. He has some experience. We had people training with the International Crane Foundation that came and helped. We've done prescribed burn training. We're not certified.
Right,
And then the fire department
okay.
is more on the suppression side of it, so. Yeah, so we need just volunteers basically to help with all the different jobs, so.
The one that I helped with was some time ago. It wasn't
Yeah.
On the last one, but some time ago,
Yeah, I think it might have been though.
the. Yeah, the people that were running that one seemed to. They really know what they were doing.
Mhm.
They seemed very experienced.
Yeah, it was probably the same guy.
Bunch
from
of
the-
guys, he was out there with a couple of matches, backing it up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool because we get to learn a lot from when the guy from the Coastal Bend Prescribed Fire Association comes out. Sonia came out, she's certified and is helpful, so. So, or used to be, I don't know. So yeah, sometime between now and the end of December, hopefully we can get a good weather day before we're not in burn ban anymore, so. Okay, so programs and outreach, we've continued a lot of just what we've been doing. We had, many of you probably met Karen Lammy and maybe her husband Tim. They were the preserve hosts last winter, and she was amazing. Like, she just had a passion for educating and talking to people. She was like just a hiker. Like, she just walked all day out there, and she got really into photography and birding. Like, you could tell once she gets into something, she goes just all in. And she helped with nature walks. She created a watercolor program that she did every Sunday afternoon in March in the nature reserve. So it was kind of what we were looking for, because she was out there educating people and about the rules and super friendly. Like, we've had several emails since then of people just saying that they really enjoyed meeting her and like how great she was. So having someone out there was kind of a good fit this year. So she's planning, her and her husband works Monday through Friday remotely, so he would help on the weekends. But yeah, they're planning to come back in October. And stay till April, or end of March or April.
It seemed to be a good fit.
Yeah, yeah, and she had education experience. She worked at Galveston State Park and another one, I don't remember, but so she helped with the programming at those parks. And then being in Galveston, we needed a beach walk guide one day, and she's like, I'll do it. Okay. So just ready to try things and stuff. So it was great. She helped with the youth birding club too. We did that this spring with the Olson Elementary and Marlin Academy. We had 9 students. They were pretty dedicated, the students that signed up. So that was good. We kind of had like ups and downs with that the last couple of years, but we have a few that are real into it, the kids that are returning. And we had 2 Great Birding Classic teams with them. Because they're not really quite there yet. We had to do the all ages events. Because if you do just the youth, like, the adults cannot help them at all. And it's really challenging, especially with this lady from Rockport. She's got like 12 teams, Martha McLeod. And I don't know, like, how.
It was amazing.
Yeah. But we did a big sit for only like 2 hours with the kids, and then Julie did it's called Sunrise to Noon, so they bird anywhere you can go between sunrise and noon. And, Mark Weaver's, one of the parents that's a birder, and then his son and two of the other kids, so they had, it was fun. But the Spoonbills got first place, so that's the team that Scott's been organizing for a long time. So that was 109 species for the Central Texas Coast Big Sit, so. And I think Hazel Bazemore only had maybe 90 something,
Something like that.
yeah, so.
Yeah, it seemed like a really poor year for us, but it's the same for everybody.
Yeah. So I got a photo of the first Big Sit. The first year they offered it as a part of the contest was in 2003, and they had a team at the birding center, and Shelley said that year you guys won, and it was 109 species as well, so the birding center. So that was awesome. The Whooping Crane Festival was freezing, but it was great this year. I helped with all the guides. So I was more involved this year than before, because of Lisa Shelton, had a stroke, and, anyway, it was hard for everybody this year without her, but I think we did a good job. There was about 2,000 people that attended. Yeah, Clay Taylor, he led Clay's Hill walks on Tuesdays for the winter. He wants to continue that. He mentioned he wants to do butterfly walks. He's really taking on ownership of this name of this hill. We should just start naming things
Yeah.
for people. Get them out there, so. But he wants to come out and do weed and help maintain the hill as well. So that's pretty cool. And we have our other programs we're continuing, yoga, birding on the boardwalk, and nature walks. All right, so, okay, so the FEMA. We're officially done with all of our Hurricane Harvey Nature Reserve, Nature Reserve visitor amenity repairs. So we had the ribbon cutting in January. That's been, people are very, very happy and very happy to get out there, so. Next week, I was just thinking about, because CBVP, you guys are monitoring the bird nests, maybe after the season, they could come talk to us about that. Or maybe before Rachel leaves, I don't know when she's here, but there's a bird biologist out there that, is, monitoring the nests. Yeah, the floaters. So she's had some, sends me pictures of eggs or hatchlings, and it's just, they're having some success. But it's out that way along the channel, mostly. So the Restore Grant project is under construction, and will be completely done, the construction in August.
Now, what is that? What is that project?
So it was $1 million grant. And we have so far resurfaced the Clays Hill Trail. We added the connector to the Meeting Park Trail. 2 shade structures up there. Currently resurfacing the Birding Center parking lot. So the city funded the new parking lot. It was supposed to be things that were repairs from existing for this grant, because it was tied into, even though it's Deepwater Horizon money, it was tied into Harvey. So we were able to connect, and even though I'm like, well, can't we just connect parking lot and expand it? But they weren't going for that. But so we did the little trail connection at Clays Hill, and then the improving that trail. So resurfacing of the Birding Center parking lot, making that better is part of that. The city paid for the trail connection to the South Trail. And then a whole bunch of bollard and cable, which was a lot of the budget. So there's new bollard and cable, and they're repairing some as well from these funds. Going around the Paradise Point neighborhood. So there's a lot of people entering the nature preserve from the backs of those homes and. The police were always saying, well, we don't know where the nature preserve is, and so now there's the cables up on most of it and the bollards are in. And then it goes down, by, Aloha RV, which is behind Cody's, all the way down to the water district. New building and then up. Sort of connecting to some old other bollards, there's a section of land that we don't own, so there's a gap, but. Someone was gonna be driving around, it would take them kind of a lot to find that gap, so hopefully they won't. So that was pretty expensive, it was, I don't remember how many linear feet, but it was a lot. And then they're also paying, that grant's also paying for an extension of bollards from, behind the homes in Ross Avenue. Cause the bollards from the community park just kind of end somewhere. We saw tire tracks going in over there. We also put in new trash cans at all the sites. 10 ADA benches. 5 bike racks. And Justin and I are working on educational signage. We're probably gonna have about 30 new interpretive signs that'll be done by October. So. Yeah. Oh, and viewing scopes. Yeah. There was 4, I think, scopes put out. It's been a lot. Really happy with that one. Over, it took a really long time. I think I've been working on it the whole time I've worked here. She's almost like 6 years.
So I think that's typical of the
Yeah,
FEMA money from Harvey and all the restore money from
yeah.
the Deepwater Horizon, just go on and on, it takes forever.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
It was kind of crazy. So we have 2 Kepler projects, which is from the General Land Office. It's the Coastal Erosion Protection Response Act. One is for the blowout area at Charlie's pasture, so the open water there, on what to do with that. These are both planning and design and permitting grants. We have had a contract with the GLO for a year. And they are supposed to be getting a work order with the engineers. And it's just taking a really long time. Nothing's happened, basically.
You replace that 15 acres,
Maybe, or something
something like that.
because
Okay.
yeah, so another Kemper project that we're not managing that's happening right now is also repairing the rock revetment. So once that is done, there won't be any more water flow back there. And that is in the design phase. So they're gonna start surveying it for environmental soon, the General Land Office, because they're totally managing that project. We had a conference call last week. It's gonna take a really long time though for all of this to be permitted. Like several years. For any of it, so it's not gonna be happening anytime soon, I guess. But yeah, the plan for since the water, I mean, there's still erosion happening where the rock is still, I mean, it's shallow there, but you can see there's just so much sediment every time the ship moves through. So restoring the elevations to something, I mean, there was a pond back there before, so having some, something of a matrix of what was there before, I guess. But we haven't gotten to that. We just had the last year, maybe Stan Tech gave us a presentation that was more about looking at the elevations and the depths and how much sediment would be required to do anything, and then the design of actually what it might look like would be later with this money. And then we would need to build it, so. So then the other project, I guess, is really kind of a third Kepler project, is the bulkhead stabilization. So they're scouring underneath the bulkhead along Port Street. And so the city dumped some rock on the sides to help trap sediment because it's scouring underneath.
The new boat, the new.
Well, it was just a repair. They wouldn't pay for,
They had that bunch on top.
and they repaired what was there, and some of those panels were not in very deep, but plus the channel's much deeper now, the waves are bigger. Actually. Roberts Point Park, a piece of it blew out this weekend. There's a piece of sidewalk that fell into the ship channel this weekend, so that bulkhead is also, yeah.
The weight of those ships is just the base.
Like close to the ferry landing on that edge,
Kind of,
on that outside,
yeah.
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 that
they're-
sidewalk though.
Yeah, in Roberts Point Park, but yeah, more towards that end.
Wow.
Like there was, you can see it was starting to separate and then like on both. Near the grass and near the kind of wall, and then there was like. We put cones up, the people that work out there last week,
Mhm.
because they're like, oh gosh, and then this weekend it fell into the. It's the channel.
Wow.
Have y'all had any conversations with the port or any? Anybody responsible for the deepening?
I think maybe.
Okay.
Maybe that will. Continue.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now.
Answer is always, that's not it's not our responsibility, that's the ships.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I would think when you deepen the channel, right, like the bottom wants to self-level. So it's gonna immediately start filling back in and it's gonna rob from the sides,
yeah.
which then brings it below the bulkhead. I mean, it's just a domino effect, so,
Okay, which we need these hardened structures unfortunately because of that,
Mhm.
right.
so. Anyway. Yeah, this one is just to design and permit. Something to stabilize the bulkhead. It's like almost a mile long, just the one by Charlie's pasture, not even the one at Roberts Point Park, which I know we have to start thinking about, so. Anyway, so all planning that, I don't know how involved I am with that, but obviously it's to protect the nature reserve and our road to get out there, so. So, let's see. Another project that's going on right now is through a CDBG contract, so I'm not organizing this, but pepper tree removal and treatment along the new Salt Island Trail. So, that was cool, because lead and all that. But they looped it in with a larger project with more invasive removal on other properties, outside of the city, so. So I have this here, another discussion later in the meeting. I have budgeted $80,000 to work on the driveway at Paradise Pond, and we haven't done anything yet, so maybe I'll save that for here in a few minutes. And then I also budgeted $35,000 for the Ross Avenue bollard and cable, and that is now gonna be paid for out of the restore grant, so we've saved that city money. Cause our project was under budget. Okay, so here's some good news. We were notified that we are recommended for funding for the Parks and Wildlife Boating Access Grant. Which is to more planning and design and permitting of the kayak paddling access by the water tower. So I had to send an updated kind of map with some ideas to them, to Parks and Wildlife Department. But now they have to send that to Fish and Wildlife Service, and they're not sure how long it's gonna take them to review that, and then it'll come back, so. I don't know how long that's gonna take, but we can need some help on that when we start kind of designing it.
And is the map back here is what you sent them?
Let's see whether. Yeah, that was the updated. Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of in the budget section too, some of these things are overlapping. Um. Yeah, so they'll only, I had a conference call with them last week, we had those planners, come up with this. Real complicated, park design that had all kinds of things.
Remember that discussion?
But since the voting was the top priority, so if you get the planning grant for the voting access, they're basically saying, well, we're gonna commit to going to phase 2, which is construction, and it's 75%. So. But they're not gonna pay for anything other than anything for voting, so. Driveway. Parking, a restroom right next to the access, shade or day, little day use area and. Whatever type of, infrastructure to get the boats in the water. So, and then, they said probably, like bollard and cable could be included. Cause she was like, oh, there's already a road here, and I'm like, oh no, that's just like people trespassing and driving around back there. So she's like, oh, well, you should put the fencing in there, they might approve that, so I was like, "Oh, that'd be great, so. That's just, just ideas. That would. Design will come with the engineers. And then, Colleen and I also submitted a recreational trails grant. And, we got that. So. That was also selected for funding, so. The community park, there's a walkway around the community park that was damaged from the AEP trucks from Hurricane Harvey. They have given the city money to, repair that, but. Colleen there's like a lot going on in the community park, so she hasn't done it yet. So we have that AEP money, so that's gonna be used for match for this, the city doesn't have to pay anything.
Very good.
So we're gonna be repairing that finally. The last fire we had in the nature reserve, the fire department damaged some of the community park trail. But. The other thing is that first section of that trail is only 4 feet wide when it was built like in the 90s or something. So I've been wanting to widen that. So we're gonna repair the parts that are broken and then widen it to 6 feet. And then we're gonna add a little connector from Port Street over to the Paradise Pond connector, so you could loop around kind of.
Oh, nuts.
So. That's pretty much that project, it's pretty straightforward, hopefully that one will be easier to do. That's just construction, so we'll just need a simple plan. For specs for the concrete and where they're going.
If you're widening the sidewalk, do you have to replace it, or can you just lay down another piece beside it?
We're gonna lay down a piece beside it because the cost of
Yeah.
10 miles.
completely new was insane in demo. Yeah. So the sections that are broken from the fire trucks, those will be. Demoed, but that's our plan at least. It was. Really expensive. So. And then, so I have it. Here maybe. So I don't even know if we discussed this, but the city purchased the land behind the family center. You're training my brain. And I submitted a application to the Coastal Man Bays and Estuaries Program for a like a master plan of that property. And I think it was moving to the next level. I don't know if you guys met yet. Okay.
Next week.
Okay, next week, maybe it may be recommended, so. That's possible for next year as well,
What kind of improvements?
for that plan.
Mhm.
Well, this would be more like just more planning, because, there are, I think, deed restrictions on it. Or it's 75% of it to be parkland. But, part of the other, because that drainage canal is right up behind it, the thought was part of this planning process would be how could we like help with some of the stormwater problems? You know, maybe have it filtering through some wetlands, maybe enhance the wetlands that are there. And then, I'm looking at this and laughing because I was told this morning that there's an alligator in this pond, right? Maybe it'll be the Boots' new home.
Alligator in the pond.
Yeah, but that the land could be a good birding and nature park, but also help with the quality of stormwater,
Right.
quantity of stormwater. And all that, so. Yeah, I think, that would help us just get a conceptual idea of what we wanna do or what we can do. So. That's it, I guess.
That's a lot.
There's a lot, I guess we didn't meet for a while.
So it's been interesting to me and gratifying that since actually even since Colleen first came as preserve manager, that everybody that she and Ray both have pursued grants successfully. And that was one of the provisions that were one of the, I don't know what you call it, the job descriptions was the pursue grants. And it's like, well, you find somebody might try, they might or might not be successful, but in our case, you know, we've been, in my mind, very successful in securing grants and getting a lot of work done with somebody else's money.
Yeah.
Great. Good on you.
Good job.
Yeah. With Colleen, actually, we were updating all the grants because, the rec center, it's gonna cost the city a lot of money, so we were wanting to show how much, you know, we've leveraged and brought into because but the city is willing to put the match money up, which a lot of this, in a lot of cases where other cities or smaller communities or little organizations, they don't have any money to do that, but we can use the hotel motel tax, to amplify it, so.
So it still takes a lot
Yeah,
of work and good grantsmanship.
Writing grants is not fun.
Yeah, to make it work.
At least.
I've been impressed and
Yeah.
pleased with that since we should first started the preserve
yeah.
group.
People love the
Yep.
grants, this helps.
Right. True.
They know it's gonna be used as well, so.
Well, it's good that you've got the city council support also,
Yeah,
mainly because you've demonstrated you can bring so much money in. That's good for you.
Yeah.
Good for us.
Okay, any other comments, questions? So maybe I'm missing something. Says to approve the minutes of the December 6th meeting. We don't have the minutes or?
they were,
Good.
Oh,
a technical glitch,
yeah, I just didn't get it. All right.
reason they were not in the packet, I don't. I'm struggling with the icon list.
I'd like to take just a moment to look at it.
Any list this presentation that didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah. You may have any questions or comments about the meeting, the minutes from the December 6th, 2024 meeting?
We'll move that we accept them.
Second.
So we have a motion, second to accept the minutes, all in favor?
Aye.
Sorry. Are there any further comments? The minutes, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So the minutes are approved. Ray, tell me again about the signing of minutes, so that's what I just signed a while ago, you gave me with these?
No, you signed the October, so basically now that these have been approved and there's no edits. You'll sign
I'll
them
sign it.
the next time.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. We have to go into this system and finalize them and then. Yeah,
All right, so you're up again then. Budget requests.
okay, yeah. So. The city council, we're gonna meet with the city council on July 1st, to talk about. Next year's fiscal year. And we have to have our requests in a little bit ahead of time and. So I just. See, but we can kind of talk through this, or if you guys have any ideas or other things we should think about. So. I guess the first thing we have there is that's just a golf cart that's small. So, it very narrow, this cricket golf cart, so the staff can easily get out on the boardwalks and not feel like they're gonna fall in the water. So, that's pretty easy, it's not too expensive. I think there's not even a gas option, it's 14,000 for the lithium battery to your door, delivered to your door. So. Our small golf cart's kind of aging out, so.
So is it smaller than a normal golf cart, or you just?
Yeah, so
Alright.
these things. Like they have ones that you can like fold up and put in your RV. So we had been researching narrow golf carts, trying to figure out. Because of the boardwalk, it's just kind of. It just doesn't feel right. So, but we need to get equipment out or. People to do work and not have to walk a mile, especially in the heat to get out there, so, the contractors actually had one of these, crickets. We're like, where did you get this? But they had it because, they would bring it traveling with them. So but this is a little bit of a bigger one, the Grasshopper, but it's more narrow than a regular golf cart. Because when you take our golf cart on the boardwalk, your wheels pop up on the railing. Depending on your personality, you may freak out or you may be a little bit unnerved by
I haven't
that.
ever used one, but an e-bike with the trailer, would that
Mhm.
also?
Yeah, we talked about that too.
Right.
So. But yeah, then you can't have two people on it, I guess. You need two, probably.
Didn't we outlaw e-bikes?
Actually, the class 1 are okay, although,
Pedal assist.
yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone and their mother has a throttle one though, so. Oh, God, yeah, but anyway, so. Some kind of narrow vehicle to get out there. Is that request. So then the next thing is just, we're wanting to request some funds from the city to work on invasive treatments. There's just endless amounts of work to be done. So if I put this out here, if anyone had any suggestions, Sonia's Grassland specialist, she's not here, but Katie had hosted the Grassland Prairie workshop that we all went to, and they gave a lot of presentations on spraying with drones. You just got a contract from someone or an estimate.
No, I got an estimate for 40 acres of tallow, it was less than 10,000,
Okay,
which
40,
No, to what now?
40 acres of Chinese tallow. He estimated less than $10,000,
so is that
which is,
gonna be just one treatment or,
yeah, that is true.
okay. Yeah, Justin spoke to. It might have been. No, I think he spoke to I got the contact that you, I think, got from Jake.
I got another, I have 2 contacts.
Okay,
And
so I have 3 now.
With the drone spraying.
Justin spoke to someone that said we could spray guinea grass for like $100 an acre. Which I was looking back. It might be more like, well. We saw that I was doing a treatment of pepper tree and one retreatment was like $250 an acre with this one project. It could be a little bit more affordable, but also we could spray across the blowout area with drones. We don't have to wait for the rock revetment to be rebuilt in like 5 years. Because we just burned that area last August and there's pepper trees regrowing and a lot of guinea grass. So we were thinking about the guinea grass. We started thinking about the guinea grass in Clays Hill, and basically if you go to Clays Hill and you look back, there's like a bench over here. This whole like swath here, about 8 acres, has a lot of guinea grass. So if anyone has any suggestions or you send me or information on how to, you don't have any guinea grass really to deal with that.
You could spray that guinea
Please.
grass with the
Please.
drone and not hurt the trees up on the hill.
Yeah, it is crazy how they map it out, like they can show you, like, it's very precise, like exactly where they sprayed and, was pretty, I was a little bit scared about it, and then seeing more about it, it's pretty cool.
Sounds pretty cost effective compared to having people out there with sprayers on their back and then getting access to places you can't get, like across past the.
Yeah.
Well,
So, I don't know, we're still working on this for this year, but
we have to have the budget,
Like, are you getting
recommendations.
No, I just gotta.
probably in like a week.
So you're trying to get
Trying
more
to.
detailed information about this.
Yeah,
It's up.
but when Justin's called the guy
I
about,
should do.
when he said $100 an acre, he basically estimated for getting a cost estimate for this area and across the blowout area.
We're spraying for guinea grass and usually pepper.
Yeah, so.
I'm just glad that they,
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, and then we were looking on one of the people's websites and they had a native seeding by drone. Oh,
Yeah.
That's
drones
cool.
can do a lot.
Yeah,
They do a lot of fire application with drones, like dropping ping pong balls that light,
oh, right,
like it's,
Hmm.
you can dream it, they can do it, I think.
that's cool. Yeah, so, I don't know, Justin was also wanting to look into like potentially soil amendments. Since this was spoil and there just seems to be a lot of invasive plant problems, like maybe there's something different about this soil than, out behind the dunes at UT's property or the state park that hasn't been, that's just been there forever,
Yeah.
instead of, obviously, there's not seed bank over here, but maybe there's something with the soil as well, so maybe something to think about in the future we can do some soil testing.
I work with a researcher from University of Houston doing. Microbial impacts on dune restoration
Okay.
and amendments to the soil.
Is there any kind of pre-emergent application for guinea grass?
We did that.
We did a Nasapure, didn't we?
Yeah.
I mean, it lasted for about a month.
Just the seed bank in that is so, so robust.
On Clays Hill, well, we saw some off-target damage.
Okay.
Like some of the trees were growing real weird. This was before we did some more planting.
Yeah.
It was more like the lime prickly ash. It was like growing all gnarly. But then the guinea grass didn't grow back for a while, but then it did eventually
Yeah.
come back in full force.
Yeah.
Same with the trail connection from the birding center to South Trail, because there was nothing there that was really desirable. The year after it was amazing wildflowers, and then guinea grass is real bad again. But now we've planted a lot of trees there, so. I don't do that anymore. So, anyway, if anyone has anything they can send me, please contact that person or what. So. This Curtis Pond driveway has been real. Stressful. Because I was wanting to move this pole. That's not even ours, we don't even have any electricity. But I've been told that it's gonna be very costly. They won't get back with me on exactly maybe what they think. Because there's 3 poles there that are servicing like all this stuff around here. And if you move one, there's lots of utilities and anyway, it sounds very complicated, so I'm wondering if we should just go ahead and re-asphalt it. The reason I wanted to get that pole gone is because then you could either, we could use our driveway to have some parking along the way or sidewalk, you know, to walk in and it'd be nicer, feel like more like you're going to park. It's just kind of, it's sticking out like a couple feet into our property. But we could even remove the planters if we wanted more of that space, you know, like,
Yeah.
but with that pole there, it's. So, haven't really gotten anywhere with that, and
In the removal of that pole, could it be taken underground and brought back up?
the last email I sent them was asking about putting it underground and I haven't heard back.
And
So,
y'all, that's through AEP.
yeah,
I had a new pole put in at Fennessy when I had to put in electrical work for the main gate. I'll see how much it costs.
well, yeah, I had a pole put in on the south. Charlie's Pasture South, it wasn't that much money, but this apparently has other utilities on it. And there's like engineering that involves the weights and the tensions on all these poles and.
Even if the pole's still there, you could remove the planter and do parking. And then skip the pole area and parking,
Yeah,
you know, on either side of it.
that's true.
Is there enough gap between? How wide is that planter? Like, if you left the pole, could you still get a sidewalk in there? If that's
Oh,
what, if that was your
Oh,
thought?
yeah. Probably because with ADA, you only need it to be
36 inches.
36 inches and then every 200 feet or so, you need like a 5-foot turning. So, okay,
Sidewalk would be great.
yeah, having this as a,
Someone who walks and bikes through there.
yeah,
Was there any, it was, at one point in time, we had asked about putting a fire lane in. Red
Yeah.
fire lane lines, to keep people from parking there going into lawns, which would. Open up the width.
Mhm.
Did that,
I think when we decided to put up towing signs instead. And everyone ignores them and then. I don't have, I didn't need to call the tow truck on them because I feel
Yeah.
bad for them,
Yeah.
it would set them back.
Just tell the
$400 to
like,
pick it up down the street, I just, don't.
there's a number of like parking lots that are self-patrolled by tow companies. You don't have to call them. They're
Yeah.
like,
I guess.
I have the
could just-
contract here. You're not supposed to park here. They just hook you up and go. Like, you don't have to tattle on them.
Yeah. It's the last time I told someone to move, I got cursed out, so
Oh, yeah.
that's the other thing. But, so, yeah, we could, so that's a good idea, actually, maybe just to have the sidewalk and then it squeezes more narrow behind the pole, and then maybe eventually you could. Make it a normal width. Then the other side. Of it is. Like you can see pretty much, you know, all the parking and this. That's our property, so I know we talked about a little bit like. Putting a fence or like strategically, like sections of fence maybe to. Delineate. Justin mentioned maybe a curb, but then. I don't know, people are just gonna. You know, I was trying to also. Create like a better visitor experience, like sidewalk coming in, but or potentially more parking. I mean, it's wide enough to. It just feels more narrow than it is because of, the taco line and the parking, like these people are actually parking in our driveway.
Right.
But then I don't want any unintended consequences of like creating issues of traffic flow for even us too. You know, like sometimes at 3 PM when the birding's going off, people are parking in Juan's parking lot when they're not. Tacos aren't.
Mhm.
Right.
But I also, sometimes people can't get in and I know we've talked about this a bunch of times, but I did measure that we could, because people are parking on this little strip of grass right here anyway, that there is enough space to add one spot there. So. And then there is trash coming out of the dumpster all the time, like. Do we put, some kind of screening there on our property? I don't know.
Well, I imagine if you put parking spots along the planters,
Yeah,
that's where the launch people park.
right, unless we had a big fence. But a 6-foot fence would probably make it feel real narrow and,
Yeah. You couldn't run it all the way to the street anyway, because everybody cuts in there to go to the top of the line.
right, but it's not their property, I
I know.
guess.
You'd have to just cut
But
that off.
I don't wanna like make the whole town mad.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
it would be. But you have a lot of people saying,
Yeah. But then also, people like the landscapers that come in here, they just like park over here and then you just see them take their loppers out, like cut our tree and we're like, what are you doing? Times like that, or when I'm getting cursed out, I'm like, I'm putting up a wall. But then I'm like, oh, I feel bad, or, sometimes people birding there, go in there, buy a cup of coffee and go to the bathroom and Juan is always welcoming and so
Right.
that's kind of
Right.
So.
well, maybe the red stripe fire lane might be your,
Mhm.
just. Paint a red stripe, put fire lane on it, no parking, and most people would at least look at that. Maybe it'd slow down some of the parking.
Yeah,
On our property going into there. That may be the least expensive thing to do.
yeah,
And repaving that, of course, that's, potholes and everything.
Yeah.
Maybe you do your repaving job, you put the red line in there, people get used to not being able to get in there for several weeks while the repaving is going on. And they self-train.
Wishful thinking.
yeah,
Wishful thinking, but
yeah,
And that storm drain there, in that corner.
yeah,
In your repaving, you could consider doing it like they did it here in the Marina parking lot.
oh, yeah,
And so it's all, it's paved with the porous material. How well it's holding up, how well it's working, but
yeah, like pavers to,
yeah.
actually that drainage in there, that thing's always kind of getting full.
Yeah.
So rethink that at this time and think that. So,
Fencing it off and putting big barricades up would probably just create more bad will than solving your problem. Towns.
Yeah.
Uses that, but at the same time, maybe repaving it, and putting the red stripe down that boundary line. With a fire lane, no parking,
yeah,
they.
and maybe won't
Help
be
deters.
it, I mean,
Yeah,
Colleen and I would like to go in and talk with Juan too, but.
Yeah.
As we repave it, we'll realize like where the property boundary,
Mhm.
well, they will be forced to realize where.
Yeah.
the Property boundary is.
yeah,
I think Rick is probably right that, you're talking about putting a fire lane on the,
yeah,
On
on one side.
on one side, yeah. that, not a lot of people park right on top of a fire lane
Yeah, it
line.
would discourage some, but. Again, the length of time it would take you to repave that and put that in there would cause enough havoc. Required havoc,
Yeah.
That may get people to figure out another way to get in.
Yeah, so on this side,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, let's give you some ideas. The juice is flowing again from that. So,
And if there is room for a sidewalk, I'd advocate for that.
yeah,
There's,
Yeah.
otherwise you're just walking through a parking lot or biking or running.
yeah, it's. Most people, it would help people who don't know where they're going. That was the idea with the planters too, is like a little bit of. There's a park back here.
Right.
A sidewalk going back there would probably help people see it a little bit better. Okay. Okay, so that. May get pushed off to next year, or may be able to do the asphalt this year,
Does y'all's money carry over year to year?
I would just have to say we didn't get to do this, you know, we were planning and.
Yep.
I would have to request it again.
Okay.
So. That's up to the budget to see if we can afford to, you know, what they can afford. Like I said, the rec center is really taking up a lot of. Money in the future, so, have to be really careful now, especially with that, you know. That's gonna be the nature reserve headquarters too. Of, not gonna be a lot of huge capital projects besides that one.
Right.
I know it's not your wheelhouse, but what's the timeline on that?
On Thursday, they're gonna be talking about it at council, but I think everything was way over budget. And they were gonna be, what do they call that? Cost. Basically, we're gonna talk with the contractor and see if they can remove some things or get the cost down,
Economic engineering.
something, yeah, and,
Negotiation.
yeah, like, or maybe there's some things there we don't really need, or like. Maybe there's a whole bunch of expensive something somewhere that could be done with less expensive materials, or maybe we don't need. Certain element,
Yeah.
so to get it closer to. What, was budgeted. I think it was 18 million was budgeted, and maybe the lowest was, for the project was 22 or $4 million. Anyway. I'm not sure.
Your office looks fine.
Yeah, yeah, I'll stay there. Can cut my office out, stay in my little building.
Is your building turning into Swing Fest? Oh.
I have no idea.
Oh.
Surf Rescue will probably have a new building before the rec center is built. I think that's already designed and potentially. Surf Rescue building is gonna be by the fire station. Once they don't need. Some space for staging next to the fire, then they'll start. The. Surf Rescue building. But fires including is EMS too, in the same building. Yeah, it's a lot going on. Okay, so we already talked about the master plan for the family center. Wetlands, that is potential funding coming next year. So it could be something that, once we get, if we get this funding, once we get, a firm to work on that, we'll, meet about that.
You said this property has a deed restriction on it?
Yeah,
6 acres?
yeah, it was something like. The sellers. You know, required that 75% of it would, or something like that, would be park
Okay.
land. But that the city could use maybe 25% for something else, like. There's uplands there, maybe they would need future. Space to do something, yeah,
Nature Preserve office.
yeah, yeah. We hit that lunch counter every day. So. Yeah, so we were just talking about maybe. Wanting to put some kind of fence around that because of all the trash blowing around, but that's not really. A a big conversation, just. But maybe waiting,
Yeah,
because of the planning,
I'd wait for the planning to have them for that.
yeah, there's a lot of trash over there. Blowing, okay, and then. The grants, we kind of already talked about this, but it'll be in the budget that'll be carrying forward the matching for the CUFRA, the restoration of the nature reserve. And then finally, the voting access, we've been budgeting for that for a few years, hoping that the grant would open up. And
So on this design, is the blue dash the road in, or is the red dash?
oh, the. Is that the
What's that?
professional one? The blue,
Up here, it says a place of road designated in red
where is that, in the text?
in the text,
Oh,
and the pedestrian path is in blue.
no, that's all right,
But it's-
Good job.
Backwards.
yeah,
And so funding for this would include the fence that separates the north and south property line
yeah,
from the water districts.
hopefully,
And then the entryway, where the road takes off, looks like a diagonal coming in about halfway down the entry road to the water tower. Is the water district happy with that?
well, so. I have two options here.
Okay.
When this conversation started with the water district, they owned.
I don't see.
Do we have that one?
I don't see that. We don't have that.
You don't have this?
No. All I have is the.
Is it on the back of that?
No, on the back of that is the.
That is so weird.
All I have is this was a colored. And
How did I end up with? I swear I took this and put it in the copy machine, to copy these. That is so blur. Oh, gosh. Came out terrible as well. Okay, I don't know what happened. Yeah, see page 11. Okay, anyways. You can look. Pass this around, but. We're hoping we can feed off of their property. Because then we wouldn't have to disrupt as much grassland. And it would cost less. And when we started this conversation, the water district owned that property in the front. Now they don't.
Yeah.
But the Clark family owns it. And they have an easement. They did a trade or something.
Yeah.
For the, I think it was a trade for the property that's further down the island for the new wastewater treatment plant. But the water district has an easement with the landowner for their road.
Good.
So basically, we would just need to negotiate with the landowner and the water district to see if it's possible, if we can access the park from their road and then branch off. And then get, an easement and then a maintenance.
Yeah.
We'd probably be required to maintain that part of the road, because it's like crushed concrete.
There'd be a fence or something that would cut off access.
To the tower.
To the water tower.
Yeah, they have a gate, so they'd probably move their gate.
Yeah, because right now the gate's on the road.
Yeah,
If you drive in there right now. Without another gate to
Mhm.
access that thing, you're gonna end up at the water tower, and I don't think the water district.
yeah, no,
No.
although he said he mentioned removing the gate because it's rusting and
Okay,
he has
Alright,
enough
that was
security
all-
at
that
the
was-
top, but maybe he doesn't want a bunch of people driving up there and turning around when it's a park.
yeah, that was one of my,
Uh,
sorry, you answered that, okay.
yeah, so all that would need to be, figured out, but it would cost would be a lot less, than we wouldn't have to cut into all those
Yeah.
grasslands there.
And then you were saying that the. Parks grant, you're gonna get, you have a parks grant for this, for the
We're,
planning?
they're taking my new engineering drawing to Fish and Wildlife Service, but they're recommending it for funding
Okay.
to see what's allowable. But
But that, yeah, you're trying to figure out what they're gonna allow, maybe Probably mainly the access road in the parking area.
Yeah, there's like
Kayak
restrooms, arena, I added the fencing into it because she said that she thought they would allow that. But any kind of trails or, she didn't seem to think they would pay for the whole road.
Yeah, like,
I'm like, well, I know you don't, in the future, that whole road might be used for other things, but at this point, without the whole road, we can't get to the boating.
yeah.
So,
And you mentioned restroom. How are you going to do that?
it would probably be the same toilets that are at Charlie's pasture.
Composting. Now, we can't use those composting ones over at Charlie South.
So here's the deal,
No, like,
There-
it's still complicated.
there's sewer there,
Okay, never mind. I understand. There's
so
no sewer out here though, so you can put a composting.
there's
toilet.
no sewer on this side of the highway yet. It's coming very shortly.
If we
but-
were in there ahead of time, we're grandfathered. hopefully.
Yeah, and maybe because it's so far away,
Yeah,
So if sewer is available, you're not allowed to use composting toilets?
what do you do in the park?
Well, we only have one restroom.
Yeah, the
And-
changing
And
facility.
yeah, porta cans on the beach, so. What? That seems obscure, like what, is that a law or city ordinance or?
I think it's ordinance. You have to tie into the sewer if it's available.
Okay.
Now, the Charlie's Pasture one is not composting, it's pumped out by Parks and, by the Public Works, so it's really like
Vault toilet.
a vault
Yeah.
toilet. You couldn't use those types of toilets as a composting toilet.
But we can't put a vault toilet out at Charlie South. Because
Yeah.
there's sewer there,
That's what
We
I was
can't put one-
told, same with the
we can't-
birding center,
but we can put one here.
yeah, because there's no sewer on the west side of the highway yet,
Okay, all
it's
right.
coming like. Very soon.
Mm.
But I said, well, what if it's gonna, because the toilet has to be back here, if the boating access is gonna pay for it, they're not gonna pay for a toilet
Yeah,
up here.
oh, yeah,
They're only gonna pay for it for the boating.
yeah.
And he said then he would probably allow that.
Well, and the cost of plumbing that, like with sewer,
Oh,
would exponentially raise the cost.
yeah. So,
It almost need a pump station.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
the gravity feed that far, yeah, you're looking at, yeah, like a lift station, yeah.
So if you get this, the grant that Fish and Wildlife approves what Parks and Wildlife said. They're gonna actually pay for the road and the kayak entry and the turnaround. Or is that gonna be more planning?
it'll be planning and permitting, because it's gonna be a lot of environmental, so that, but then, basically then. You would apply for phase 2, but since they said since they
Okay,
are. Doing phase 1, the plan is to do phase 2, they're not gonna like, they're gonna prioritize the projects that they paid for the planning.
so in phase 2, they might consider the. Bird watching boardwalk.
Oh, well, that would
tower, or is that something that the city's gonna do?
maybe like a local parks grant with the Parks and Wildlife
Okay.
Department, but not boating access.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Voting
They'll-
access is the.
they'll
road.
fund like a plan,
Okay.
right, like what you've got. And then they submit that, and if approved, then they move it to the next phase. Where they actually look at, okay, this is all approved, let's now fund it with money. That way, it divides their budget. They can fund a portion of it without going all in, knowing that the timeframes for their federal money
Yeah.
are gonna expire before approval gets there.
Okay.
So they fund one part, and then the second part actually is the money that do the work.
Yeah, they're like really encouraging us to apply for local parks grants too and stuff, but.
Good.
For now, just for this property, I think focusing on the access to the bay, so
Okay,
that's what,
thank you. Those are my questions.
so yeah, I don't know. See how long it takes for Fish and Wildlife and
Yeah,
we get a contract, then we'll start flushing out some of this.
Yeah.
well,
Sounds like a race
right
right now,
confidence, your ability.
sewer versus
Got a good job.
federal,
Yeah.
federal approval.
Soon.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
Sewer's gonna.
So- Are you asking for anything from the city for that project at this point in this budget?
$84,000. Which we've budgeted the last 2 years because they kept saying they were gonna put the application out, but
Is that the matching portion? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah. 25%. So that's pretty good, I guess.
Good. Any other comments or questions on the items that will be submitted to the city? Budget? We don't need to take any, action on that. But I know. Yeah. Okay, so our last item is, schedule the next meeting. We haven't met in a while, and we don't have a regular schedule. So we should probably meet more often than we have, which is like once every 15 years or something.
Yeah, yeah. Colleen was suggesting potentially getting a schedule for like quarterly for the next year. And then we can adjust that if there's a lot of issues with that.
That sounds good.
I know a long time ago, we used to meet like on Monday afternoons. Like every other month or every quarter or whatever, something like that,
Yeah.
second Tuesday of. But
Yeah.
I don't know if people
I think
are
we should
prepared
start-
to answer that.
Try to get back on a schedule quarterly, I think it's plenty.
Yeah, that would be good.
Unless something in particular comes up, which is what we've been doing, comes up, we'll try to meet, but.
Yeah, and annually meeting. The first part of June is good for the budgeting. Or middle of June, so.
So are we looking at September? We're going quarterly.
Yeah. Does anybody have a particular day of the week we'll try to do it? Yeah,
During the, most of the year, Tuesdays are bad for me. Mondays can work.
Mondays really don't work for me. Don't work.
yeah, and how about Thursdays? I don't think it matters.
How about the 11th?
Hmm.
How about the 11th of September? I only.
Works.
I went back in town for the 6th and 7th.
Works
Okay.
for me.
Yeah, that's city council's following week, so that's. Good on the cities.
11th work.
All right,
2:30 or 4:30 ish.
Mhm.
So are we just doing second Thursday? Of every third month?
2:30?
That looks like,
Yeah, 30 fine.
Yeah. so then that would be
In December. we-
December. 11.
Yeah, let's just set them up tentatively and we can decide.
Obviously, well, I don't think people schedule this room except for city council. That's not city council, so third.
Yeah, by doing it that way, we're always meeting a week for city council, where that makes any difference or not.
Yeah, well, it is a little bit better for having their assistance, not being like the day of a council meeting.
Right.
When everybody's panicking. So then. So then that would go March.
Mhm. Works. 12th.
Okay, so that's spring break.
That's gonna be spring break.
That could be a problem, but that one. We could do it the first Thursday of March or something, or.
That could be the 5th or the 26th, one of those two probably. the 2 weeks in the middle of spring break, you guys, you didn't really get over here. You'd be
Yeah.
stuck in traffic.
Yeah,
I would say the fifth makes more sense. That way, any pending things can still go to the council.
yeah.
But, or. You did it.
Mark it is.
Oh, December, was that?
11.
December 11. February, spring break.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just put those. Usually on schedule. Yeah, that's 3 of them.
June 11th. The second Thursday.
If the council meets on the third Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll check, calendar for this room.
Yeah. See, we could, at least we got those 4 set. We can-
Yeah,
I saw you.
they're good. We'll put them on the calendar.
Okay, and our final item is the comments for board members. Anything in particular you'd like to thank people for?
Secondary comments about how well you guys get grants. I'm impressed.
Thank you. What, how many-
Yeah.
I hope you're sharing that good news with the council, so you
Yeah.
haven't asked everybody that you have worked your butt off to raise
Yeah.
lots of money, anybody. So,
Putting that together.
So it's interesting for putting that together. We'll be interested to see
yeah,
what it is.
Yeah, the tally of, when I left my office, when I was working on it with Colleen, well, basically since she started working here, was like over $9 million.
Yeah.
5 million was the EDA grant that she worked on for the harbor. So just parks would be close to $5 million.
Wow.
on this guy, I can see that list when you get
Yeah.
it put together, right?
Um,
And let you know.
we've had a kind of a grant tracking. Running.
Yeah.
Spreadsheet that we work on together, so it's kind of, we just had a little updates. So one thing that I had on my items for future consideration. Was the Nature Preserve Master Plan. Which was approved in October of 2018. I was on the advisory board then. And it was supposed to be updated every 5 years, so. Maybe what I could do is start working on that and then bring. Either send it to you guys before the next meeting or bring it to the next meeting or. What I need help with, or. I don't know, I haven't,
Could you
I
share that?
look at it a lot, but I haven't like thought about updating it in that capacity in a while, so Sharon first.
You didn't get one
I
of
have an
these.
adaptive,
Yeah, that's what this is, right?
It should be in there.
Yeah, it's in here.
So I'm still
Okay.
working with my folder from, yeah.
But you may not have
I
got it.
have an adaptive management plan.
It's on mine,
Trail
it's
Vista
tab,
Use. Oh, that was.
tab
Trail
1.
Vista Use. That was in 2022.
If you have the same binder.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't do this for the new people. I guess I should have done that. Colleen did this for me when I was on the board.
I know where mine's at.
I have mine.
Just
Yeah.
I've got one, so-
Yeah,
The
sorry.
agenda meetings.
Uh,
It's not on it.
Yeah, so it would be helpful to get, you know, the master plan out to people who don't have it.
Is there a digital version?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't yet. It was 2017.
Yeah, mine says October 2018. I think I was on maternity leave. My daughter's almost 7 when it was.
This says
approved.
April 2017, so
It's the send.
Which is even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send it to everyone. And
Although mine has writing and margin, so maybe this was not the final. Maybe I don't have the final either.
yeah, maybe this is the final that I have. But, I think it was approved by council. Too, so just,
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah, so, I would say that the 2 or 3 steps there. First one would be to make sure that you get a digital version out. Actually, just send it to everybody.
yeah, I'll just send it to everyone.
I think I probably have it, but yeah, send it to everybody. And then, I think it's up to you if you want, I'm not sure that we could be very helpful without a lot of guidance
Yeah,
on what we need to do, you know, to update it or change it. But if you wanna highlight areas where you need help or,
Mhm.
then we could, like, we'd be more effective that way.
yeah, because when this was created, it was from scratch, you know, when there was a lot of work for Colleen. And I think, you know, revising it, we have a lot of new stuff and they were doing things differently or, so it'd be that we can work on that and then bring it to the next meeting, I guess.
yeah, if you send us the digital copy,
Yeah.
then make notes, there's some, you've got ideas in section 14, page 32 or something. And let us look at that and come back.
Yeah.
with a recommendation.
Okay. And then that way, you guys that weren't involved, at least you know what we're talking about, what it involves. I mean, it's. You know, usage. Management of land, all the, everything, pretty much. So,
Okay, sounds like we've got a job to do here in the next few months. Then.
yeah, and then that'll be really before the next fiscal year, before any new projects are starting, so. That would probably be a good time to get. Kind of first look at that.
Okay. Anything else? Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.